Welcome to Steve the Angry White Guy podcast. I'm Steve, and I'm a proud angry white man. If you're a snowflake, this isn't the podcast for you. You're not going to hear about things like managing your emotions and expectations, self-empowerment, diversity, equity, inclusion, political correctness, or inequality on this podcast. Rather, you're going to hear the truth. And if you're seeking the truth, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to get access to my free podcast. Now buckle up, because here we go. Today I'm going to talk about some subjects that hit close to home. Let's start with the idea of fairness. A lot of people live by an unwritten rule. I'll do something nice for you, but only because you did something for me. Or worse, I'll only help you if I think you'll return the favor. That mindset is transactional and it misses the point. Life shouldn't always be a damn business deal. Doing something good like mowing your neighbor's lawn, for example, should come from a place of genuine goodwill, not obligation. If you're only doing it because they helped you in the past or because you expect them to help you in the future, are you really being nice? Are you really being fair? This crap happens all the time in 2024, and I'm sick of it. It's gotten to the point where people won't even let you do nice things for them because they don't want to return the favor. People, wake the F up. Being nice or fair to people isn't a favor or something that needs to be earned. It's common decency that is progressively on a decline in America. So let's talk about the concept of fairness, shall we? First off, fairness is not a transaction. It's not about you doing something for someone else and expecting something in return. Fairness is about treating people with respect and dignity, no matter who they are or what they've done. The expectation of fairness isn't about calculating a return or keeping score. But here's the thing. When you're in a situation where fairness should apply, like waiting in line for 10 minutes only to have the store management open another register at the last minute, the problem is not that you waited too long or it wasn't fair. Also, the issue isn't that your wait time was longer compared to the people in the back. The real issue is that the management's incompetency of not having enough registers open in the first place caused the problem. And they never get held accountable for that. They still get paid, still get their benefits, still keep moving forward as if nothing happened. And to make the problem worse, no one will call them out. And we're supposed to just accept that? Fairness, when twisted like this, doesn't hold people accountable, and that's the root issue. The problem isn't that you waited too long, it's that management screwed up and they'll never be held responsible for it. So either get used to long lines at most places or do something about it. We, all of us collectively as consumers, have much more power than they do. So what can you do about it? Well, stop spending your hard-earned money at any place that makes you wait in line for more than a couple minutes if that pisses you off. Stop spending your money at places that make you scan your own items, like at these self-checkouts, if you don't like doing that. Stop talking and complaining about it and actually do something. But it's like that everywhere. What am I supposed to do? Starve Steve the Angry White Guy? No! You won't have to starve. If even 10% of people stop spending their money at a particular store for even 1 week, that store would either have to change or go out of business. The problem isn't that people won't be able to buy items that they need to survive. Rather, the problem is most people are sheep and go along with the BS until it reaches their threshold. A good example of this was right after 9/11. We'll talk about that whole thing in future podcasts. Stay tuned. But I remember watching newscasts where the interviewer would ask people who had been waiting in long lines if they minded waiting, being searched and scanned without reasonable suspicion that they were going to, in the process of, or had committed a crime. And most of the sheep replied something like this: well, you may have to sacrifice some of your rights in order to be safe while flying. And I really don't mind the wait too much, especially knowing that I'll be safe. Yeah, a lot of the respondents were grown men. I was yelling on the other side of the TV, no! Do you know where this goes, you frickin' idiot? But their threshold had not been reached yet. Then TSA started patting down the genitals of their wife, an elderly mother. That still wasn't far enough to reach their threshold. But when they started patting down their 6-year-old daughter's genitals, making her cry, then that was a line too far. The threshold had been reached. So the sheep finally complained, and guess what? TSA stopped patting down little girls' genitals. But they still pat down grandma's genitals without cause and in violation of her civil liberties to this day. And the sheep don't seem to care too much about that. It's just one of those things you have to deal with when flying. Really? I don't. I just don't fly anymore. And I won't until TSA starts doing their job correctly and they're not in violation of any of the Bill of Rights. Not to mention regularly being late and canceling flights, rude airline waitresses, crummy DEI pilots, the list goes on. I hope the rest of you join me in my U.S. airline boycott because I would like to fly again when they get there together. Okay, let's dive into respect. Respect, in my view, is something we owe to everyone. It's a baseline of decency that shouldn't depend on someone's actions or whether we feel they've earned it. Sure, there are exceptions like deliberate harm, such as physical violence or theft, but those are extremes. The problem is, people have warped the idea of respect into something conditional. Like, I'll respect you only if you respect me first. That mentality defies self-accountability. True self-accountability means holding yourself to your own standards, regardless of how others behave. If someone disrespects you, that doesn't give you a free pass to stoop to their level. The golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated, doesn't mean treat others the way they treat you. It's about rising above, not sinking to tit-for-tat dynamics. But here's where things get tricky. Expectations. Should you expect others to treat you with respect or gratitude? Absolutely. Should you be prepared for disappointment when they don't? Also, absolutely. Unless you decide to live in a cave away from people. Disappointment is natural. But how you handle it matters. If you let it fester into anger or bitterness, you're only hurting yourself. You don't want high blood pressure, anxiety disorders, diabetes, or even coronary heart disease as a result of getting angry. Instead, try to approach disappointment with perspective, even joy. It sounds counterintuitive, I know, but being let down can be a reminder that you're living by your values, not someone else's shortcomings. Now, unmet expectations and the resulting disappointment are inevitable, as most people will not behave like you do. Everyone thinks that others should behave like them. Some will deny this, but they're liars. So forget them. Well, respect and be kind to them because that's the right thing to do, but don't believe that they don't expect others to behave like they do, because they do. Everybody does. Some will tell you that obsessing over anything, especially unmet expectations, is problematic. Don't believe or think that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that overthinking or obsession is inherently bad, because they're not. In fact, these traits, especially in the right context, are crucial for growth, progress, and innovation. Overthinking, when applied to our actions and their consequences, can lead to great insights. Obsession, when focused on a goal or cause, or even unmet expectations, can drive remarkable achievements and solutions. Perhaps hotel and restaurant managers in 2025 should be obsessing more about the mediocre service their staff provides. We need these traits, not just for personal growth, but for society as a whole. Our culture has increasingly shied away from them, especially as we push towards a more agreeable, go-with-the-flow approach that seems to favor feminine qualities like avoiding conflict, brushing things off, and accepting everything with a smile. While these feminine traits are great and necessary for proper child rearing, they're not quite as good for innovation, growth, and progress. Now that brings me to masculinity. First, get this straight. No aspect of masculinity is toxic. The notion that some aspects of masculinity can be toxic is complete crap. Just like some aspects of femininity are considered toxic, bad, or whatever BS modern terminology you want to place on it. That's also BS. Masculine traits like being disagreeable, pushing boundaries, overthinking, and obsessing over details that others might overlook are part of what drives innovation and progress. Without them, we lose that edge, that drive to improve the quality of goods, services, and even our technologies. You see, this focus on agreeable behavior and going with the flow has led us to where we are now and have been for some time. Stagnation. Society, especially in America, has leaned more toward a matriarchal structure that doesn't value disagreeableness or obsession, and it's having an impact. Men in particular have been indoctrinated into this framework, often suppressing their natural instincts to question, to challenge, and to push for something better. I believe that this is directly linked to the decline in innovation we've seen over the past decade. Think about it. Where's the breakthrough thinking? Where's the boldness to challenge the status quo? The constant push to maintain peace and avoid conflict may have brought short-term harmony, but it's ultimately stifling progress. And many wonder why young boys and men are turning to porn and video games, and the matriarchy is now even coming after them. I'll be talking about that in the future. Needless to say, it would suck being a 14-year-old boy in 2025. Now let's clear up some misconceptions about narcissism and hypersensitivity. Feeling hurt or disappointed when disrespected or unacknowledged is not narcissism. Neither is having high expectations, especially from people who earn an income from the money you spend at the store they work at. Narcissistic personality disorder is a psychological condition characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a need for excessive admiration, and a lack of empathy. Think Donald Trump, okay? Or 99% of successful salespeople in real estate, banking, the stock market. Narcissists are highly likable people because they convey a sense of self-assurance and charm. Remember that expecting a thank you or a timely text response doesn't make you narcissistic. It makes you human. Don't let people gaslight you into thinking you're a narcissist. Though, I'm not sure that narcissism is a disorder, as many highly successful people are narcissists and likely would not be as successful if they weren't. This episode is not about mental illness or mental health, so let's move on. As for hypersensitivity, it's often used to dismiss people's valid emotional responses, especially women's. There's nothing wrong with feeling upset when someone disregards your effort or fails to reciprocate kindness. I suppose this goes along with being disappointed by unmet expectations. Remember to try to be joyfully disappointed. That beats the heck out of taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety pills like Valium. Studies in psychology back this up. For example, a study published in the Social, Psychological, and Personality Science publication explores how gratitude fosters stronger interpersonal bonds. When these are missing, feelings of disappointment or even hurt are normal. I left a link to this study in the description. I struggle with this myself. I know that feeling disappointed or even angry when others don't meet my expectations is natural, but I also know it's unhealthy to let that anger control my emotions or behavior. I'm working on managing those feelings in a more productive way, not necessarily for the sake of others, but because I want to be accountable for my own emotional responses. People often say, if you change, others might start talking to you again, they might start respecting you again. While that may be true, it begs the question, do you really want a relationship that's conditional on you changing your behavior to meet someone else's expectations? I don't think I do. Now, accountability. Oh boy, accountability, that's where things really fall apart in this world. Accountability doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean never making mistakes. What it means is that you own your actions, including the consequences of those actions. When something goes wrong, The person who's responsible should own up to it. But in the world we live in today, that rarely happens. We need to stop letting people redefine what these words mean just to make it more convenient for them. Now, here's some takeaways. Do good because it's the right thing to do, not because you're expecting something in return. Respect others because that's the standard you set for yourself, not because they've earned it. And when disappointment comes, and it will, try being joyfully disappointed and learn from it. We should expect fairness, respect, and accountability because that's the bare minimum. Stop letting anyone convince you that asking for these things is asking for too much. Demand better, expect more, and never let anyone make you feel like you don't deserve these things. The bottom line: fairness, respect, accountability, and masculinity. These concepts have been completely twisted. We've allowed people to redefine them into something they're not. And we've been gaslit into believing we're the problem when we want the basics: fairness, respect, accountability. Here's the truth. Respect isn't about transactions. Respect isn't conditional. And accountability shouldn't be optional. Masculinity is not freaking toxic. Don't forget to like and subscribe.